Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. It's episode 101. Before I hope to get a double in for this episode, as I have the same sort of issue I've had for a string of episodes now, but a bit more time at hand, and hopefully not much going on as we've already done our sequence of upgrades. So I do think there's one more we're going to have to kind of get through here in the next little bit. But anyway, first off, we have a new regulation vote. Let's go ahead and hop into that. We have our F1 schools. Let's go ahead and get that. We will attend. And then debrief, difficult race. First time we didn't. Why was it a difficult race? I guess we were second in points. Well, yeah, we had a DNF for one, or back of the grid for one. Whatever it was. Okay, here is our sporting change. Another overhaul to the scoring system, greater points overall, and covers the top 10 finishing positions. Pole position bonus points would go away. Points allocation is identical. Actually, there's no change in the points allocation. This is just getting rid of the pole position. We'll vote against that. I like having that bonus point. There's that upgrade I was talking about. Our underfloor research project has been completed. We have one more with the allotted hours and time that we have to try to get in and see if we can get another upgrade or research upgrade on the go. Now, each specific area within this car part each has its own reduction and what shows up there. So the drag reduction, for example, is 38.96%, so 39%. We're going to be back up to 12% of that covered off by this point, which means we've got a long ways to go yet, but you can see we're making solid gains. I mean, that's 6% better off with that research benefit, and we're getting similar kind of numbers. We're about a third of the way there on covering it off with this second research project. We finally have all of the various, there's quite a few of them, facilities that were suffering, that were struggling, that had required refurbishment, all taken care of, and then finally have a little extra cash put away, nearly 6 million. I'm done with all current research projects for the time being. Therefore, we can finally invest 3 million into the scouting department, which will make it level 4, and then the final upgrade of the entire facilities would be the one that follows that, and it looks like we can do it in about 2.5 months. Looks like we are losing the pole position bonus point for next year. We had a split vote, 50-50, but the tiebreaker in favor of dropping the pole position bonus, which means it's a one and done. Everything else remains the same. Last year at Paul Ricard, it was first and last. We were spread out as much as you could possibly be. Pourchaire claiming the victory by about a second over George Russell. Leclerc just behind him, and then a healthy gap, 10 seconds to the next group on track. But Jack Doohan finished dead last as the only non-finisher, the only DNF, 35 laps behind in that one, only having finished 18 laps in the race. Final flying lap, Q3, here we are. It's Pourchaire, who currently sits third, and actually he got blocked off pretty bad on his lap by Charles Leclerc, lost roughly 0.4 of a second. Doohan is on provisional pole, and that was on used tires that here the softs really do not last very long at all. Both drivers are green in the first sector, having improved their times. It was sector 2 or 3 where Pourchaire was blocked off, and he is green once again. Also Doohan, so neither one quickest so far. Albon crashed out early in the session just after we had finished our lap, actually, on his first run. So Sainz, Bottas already done. They are behind us. Pourchaire all the way down to P6. He's got work to do. Where does he go from here? On a provisional pole. And Doohan improves his time, but not ahead of his teammate. So Pourchaire has pole. Doohan joins him on the front row, and we're in good shape. Full second of a lap slower than what Verstappen had in Q2. So it looks like Red Bull is actually the quickest, but he had a bad qualifying. He's also carrying a penalty, as is Daniel Ricciardo. We're finally starting to see some penalties on the season. A lot of cars are holding up well. We're not doing great with that. Pourchaire, actually, all of his gearboxes are in pretty poor shape. All the little incidents that he's had on the season, each and every one of them has caused damage to the gearbox. Not enough to rule it out, but enough to take away a good 20% of its quality and leaving him needing a penalty relatively soon. Of course, missing Q3 would be a great time to do that, but we might have to just do it at some point.
The drivers have now taken position on the grid, and it's looking like a cloudy day. Here's Williams. They're starting today at the head of the pack, but will they be able to stay there? And looking at the second Williams car, they're in second place on the grid, but that could so easily change in the first few seconds of the race. Everything's been building to this. This is it. It's time for the French Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
We lock out the front row for one of the first times. This is not something we normally do. We've had a number of poles, but getting a 1-2 off the start is certainly rarefied air for us. And we managed to do so without really going purple in any sectors. I think what we're experiencing right now is a car that is just all around the best. It's not dominant in any one way. It's just, it doesn't have weaknesses like other cars do. So far, we've pulled out a half-second advantage over Leclerc, who sits third. Russell is P4. Verstappen's penalty was a minor one. He drops from second to P8. Let's see if we can open up any gaps over the field, but let's speed things up, especially if we are going to try to do a double. We're already in an ideal position. It's a simple one-stopper, mediums to hards, and we have opened up a roughly 1 second gap as we are about to 9/10, 1.1 ahead as DRS becomes enabled. We've got a good chance here that we are going to get out of DRS range of the trailing pack, and this could really set us up nicely in this one. Keep the pressure on for a little while here until we get out ahead. 1.5 now, the gap. You can see that DRS of Russell helps him pull back a good 3.5, 4/10 on us as he overtakes Leclerc, and that's what I'm working against at the moment, and why I continue to push on a little bit longer until we properly get out of DRS range. Now 1.4, 1.7, starting to work on getting away from them. 1.8, 2 seconds ahead. And we've done it. Now will we pull away over time? Let's see what happens. Another half-second gained. Approaching 3 seconds. We are faster. We are faster than everybody else. Even Russell in the Red Bull. It looked like from qualifying that Verstappen might be the quickest, but maybe that's those fresh components, as we very much aren't on brand new fresh components. But we're on good components. 4.5 seconds pulling away.
Had a car run wide.
Meanwhile, one giant train, only the back four are outside of that train that's following Leclerc. So that gap that we have now at 5.5 seconds needs to just kind of draw out further and further and further. You don't want to pit and come out behind those guys. You really don't. We have recovered a little fuel, so that's good. That's a sign that we can push later on when we need to, as we're already back down to roughly 1/10 of a kilogram. We're on the edge of it anyway. Another fastest lap, and we are 8 seconds ahead. But a long ways to go until that would be a pit stop.
Fastest lap.
And one of the first times in a long time where you see two dominant cars in the field, as the field has been so close together throughout this season and through much of last season, which of course is the reason for the major technical changes, is there's just not much more performance you can get out of that design of the cars. 9 seconds ahead. Coming up on that pit window though, feeling like we might extend a lap or so, but field is just starting to spread out. For now, we ignore. And there are cars in the pits, 4 of them. So maybe it is a good time to pit. We certainly have a nice position over others, but they're not going to gain on us super fast. So we're going to take at least one more lap, and then I think we'll start. Certainly no double stack. Doing is currently P1, so he'll get the option to go first, but we really don't want to get caught in traffic. So only 2 more cars pitting this lap means I'm going to hold off another. Oh, Pourchaire's ahead now. He can go aggressive, and we will pit him this lap. Just 1 more pits, but we don't want to fall out of our window.
Oh, did someone run wide there?
Pourchaire into the pits.
Seems to have been a lockup.
2.6 was his time, and he is going to come back out in traffic. He is P11 as he rejoins the track. They're on the hard compound. They're doing hard mediums. Okay. Okay, well, Pourchaire has already gotten around Latifi and has some clean air to run in now. He's 6 seconds behind the front 8. Doing, meanwhile, needs to overtake Latifi as soon as possible as well, and has done so. And he's into some clean air.
New position just gained by
We want
Williams.
him to also get back within DRS of his teammate and hopefully get out of DRS of Latifi, and is already 1.3 away and 1.0 behind the teammate. So standard it is, new fastest lap for Pourchaire, not for Doohan. We must have just come out of the pits. Was that our first lap out of the pits? Must have been. That was our out lap. Because Doohan clearly gained a ton of ground on Pourchaire there. Already just 4.5 seconds behind Perez, by the way. Giovinazzi is the head of that train. 3 cars in it. We're gaining on them quite quickly. Yellow, sector 1.
Oh, we've had
And we're very much catching up to those next 2 cars. And we'll probably want and need to overtake. However, look how close we are to everybody else, and they all need a pit. But they're going to be faster once they do. Okay, here we go. Aisha time. Pourchaire is better placed. Pourchaire, overtake. Lap 30 of 53. We are done with our pit stops, and we are in a fantastic position to contend as we go 3 wide right through the bollard. And we're going to come out at the head of this group. So Pourchaire already up into P6, easily around those 2 with the fresh hards and the extra pace that we just have. We're looking like Verstappen out there after he pits. How much faster he is compared to everybody else. But I don't think our drivers are good enough to go take a nap. Oh, come on, do it. There you go. Gets up the inside of Giovinazzi. That's, of course, the harder overtake. Excuse me. Guan Yu Zhou should be a sitting duck as soon as we have DRS. If not even before then. There we go. Before then it is. That's the detection zone. And there they go off into the pits as well. So it's P4, P5 already. Russell, Ocon, Gasly. And we're just 4 seconds behind them. And they're pitting soon. Alright, let's speed things up again. Front 3. Russell into the pits. Back into a podium position for Doohan. Ahead of Pourchaire now. He had some momentum. Carried forward. Had the DRS. We have caught Ocon and we go around him. So Porsche gets around both
And there's an
Mercedes,
overtake
and then
from
Doohan
Williams.
follows closely behind. So they get that done entirely on their own here on lap 36 of 53. And we're now looking at who has not pit. The three behind us, Albon is the first one who already has. So Albon is virtual P3 right now. Gasly pits, now just Ocon in between. And look at that big old gap that we have to the field behind. I don't think they've got much of a chance of catching us. Ocon pits, so Russell has gotten around Albon. He is back up into P3. Verstappen has only climbed as far as P6. He still has Albon and Magnussen, though he just got around him, so he is up a spot into P5. Russell dragging Albon around the track now, helping Albon stay ahead. Magnussen battling back with Verstappen, and it's lap 45. We're going to be done with this race quite soon, and we do have time to get that second race in. Porsche doing swapping positions, getting some bonus XP to level up a little bit faster. I like that part. The fuel is good to go. The tires are fine. All we have to do is not mess this up, which Porsche just did. But he runs wide and rejoins the track almost immediately.
Let's have a look.
Let's see what he's
Now
done
we
here.
see the Williams
At least it's
here.
some highlight. He was in
Going
first place
wide
at the
like
time.
that
Runs
could
wide,
cost them
rejoins
valuable
behind his
time.
teammate without causing an incident. I like that part. Lap 48. Russell trying to pull away from Albon, but Albon just hanging in there with him, so that's an obvious P3, P4. The big question is what happens with Verstappen, who is dropping backwards right now. I like that. Like that very much. Gasly up to P5. Magnussen is P6. Verstappen is P7. And Leclerc is P8. Lap 51 already. Haas having a disaster of a day. We've had no incidents other than a couple cars running wide today. This is the cleanest race we've seen in ages, and it's lap 52. We're going to start the final lap here in a moment, and there it is. Lead driver, last lap. We're not going to do anything. Let them battle it out entirely on, well, you know what? Here, we'll do this. Defend, overtake. That's all we will do. Use the battery they have to fight it out for the win. Just please don't take each other out on this final lap. Russell's still P3. Verstappen is still P7. Here comes Porsche challenging Doohan, and he's going to get him with the overtake. Doohan had the ability to defend. We're not going to turn the engine up because we want to conserve the life of it. And no reason to do something rash that's going to cause problems with the tires. Don't want to risk it. So Porsche, on the final lap, has taken the lead and will take victory away from his teammate, and Doohan finishes P2.
Flag.
Russell heading for the finish. He is P3. This is how far behind he is. But Albon is just behind him. So Russell on the podium. Albon just missing out. Great finish for the AlphaTauri driver, for our former driver. And Gasly looks like he's going to hang on for P5. Magnussen a little behind in P6. Verstappen just behind in P7. Leclerc, Ocon, Norris, and Guan Yu Bottas. This group all together. Giovinazzi, Sainz, Ricciardo, Stroll. There's your first big gap. And it's a Ferrari of Perez way down in P17. Day to forget for the Ferrari team, with only one driver in the points and only managing to score a few at that. 19 seconds ahead of George Russell. This, our most dominant performance we've ever had in the Drivers' Championship. Porsche still leads and pulls away a little bit from Doohan after taking that the victory away there on the final lap. And in the Constructors, we scored 44 today, giving us more than double the points that Red Bull managed to score, and now more than 100 ahead. As we've passed the halfway point of the season, things are looking really good, outside of the fact that the current research project, or am I even doing, I think I'm down to no research projects. That the chassis that just got on the car today was the final upgrade of the year. We're going to go the next 10 races, or 11 if you include this one, without any further upgrades. You have enough of a cushion. How many cars are going to commit to this year's car? How many teams are going to commit to this year's car? And how many are going to really focus on next year's car? Porsche, that target of a 90 has been achieved. We're doing now has an 85. Simon Resta is now an 85 overall, as we've added another point. He's very balanced with nothing but 84s and 85s in quality. More 85 than 84, apparently it rounds up. Last year in Hungary, we had our first real instance, or one of the first instance, of Jack Doohan doing really well, but not Porsche. Verstappen and Doohan well ahead of the chasing pack, but Doohan P2 with Verstappen taking the win, and then Porsche the one to not finish the race, 52 laps behind, only completing, yeah, you guessed it, 18 laps.
The Hungaroring is abuzz with excitement as Formula One returns to Hungary for another round. We first came here in 1986 after construction on this purpose-built motorsport facility was completed.
Porsche beginning his final flying lap, and we are at Hungary for this one. Porsche, I was actually worried about the used components that he has and being a bit slow and maybe wanting to take a penalty here, and overtakes are certainly possible here. We might just take a penalty, not like a max penalty, and get it all, but the gearbox is a real issue, so I might take the gearbox penalty and see what the grid penalty is. I don't think it's that many positions back, so regardless of Porsche's qualifying, I might just take that. He's purple in the first two sectors and was already on pole, so he's improved. Meanwhile, Doohan is looking pretty good in P2. Verstappen has gone around us. Porsche re-overtakes him by 0.2, so on a provisional pole, and Doohan P2. The Red Bulls are third and fifth, but I do think we have a little extra pace compared to some other teams, and one reason why I think I might want to do the penalty sooner rather than later, knowing we need it, is that later the other cars are going to be gaining some ground on us. We have an advantage right now, and I think that that's going to make overtakes easier. If last race was any indication, I think Porsche can handle getting a little bit of a penalty. Ricciardo also carrying one. That does mean the Red Bulls are going to be moving up, but that means Ricciardo's going to move down, so Porsche wouldn't move down.
The drivers have now taken position on the grid, and it's looking like a cloudy day. Looking at the Williams now. P1 today. Let's see if they can take advantage of that position. And looking at the second Williams car. Not as close to the front as they might have wished for, but we know the race order can change a lot during those first few corners. The teams are ready to go. This is it, the Hungarian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away
Gearbox
we go.
alone, Porsche P5. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. I like that. And he's already up to virtual P4. Still in the side-by-side, but there's the two Red Bulls ahead of us. Doohan not doing very well on this start. He's done really poorly. And then Porsche successfully squeezed out by Leclerc. We're going to have the inside here, though. Whoa, way to the inside on that grass. You can't ride that curb, by the way. That's a concrete curb that is quite high. In real life, you can't touch that curb. But Doohan recovers P1, so he does have his ideal start. But Porsche almost had an ideal start moving forward, but he is gone backwards. Now challenging, getting around Leclerc. Is he around Leclerc, though? Still battling side by side, it looks like. And he is successfully around P4 now. No gaps opening, just the back three have lost contact.
Red Bull moved up.
But it looks like Gasly has now lost contact and is pulling away. We've got stuff happening here. Verstappen has gone to last place. Verstappen spins. We had to get out of it, I think. Yeah, we were just behind him. He spins. We back off a little bit, drive around him, but it opens up a gap to the front too. And Verstappen down to last place. That's great for us. Lock up. Doing with the lockup. Let's go. Get back on track. No. Don't wait for the entire field to go by. You had a big gap there. He's still waiting to rejoin. Still waiting to rejoin. Finally rejoins from P14. So doing from the race lead down to 14th. Not quite as bad as Verstappen, but are you kidding me? There was a big old gap there behind Guan Yu Zhou. Well, okay. 2.5 seconds isn't that. So lap 15, and now a lot of work to do. Doing with another lockup in the same spot on the next lap. Wow. You're having a day. Now P16. Now doing runs wide? Or is that the same? Doing has forgotten how to drive.
There's an overtake from Williams.
Pourchaire has overtaken Russell. Russell into the pits. Pourchaire into the race lead. With DRS here in a second. We go outside, we go inside, and we complete the overtake. Secondary DRS. Helps pull away, and that's job done. So doing back up to P9, 18 seconds behind his teammate Pourchaire. Pourchaire, meanwhile, 2.5 seconds ahead of Gasly. Let's go ahead and ease off again. We're close enough yet, but let's go ahead and try anyway, as this is the great overtaking spot. Challenging to the outside, side by side, but with the second DRS take, we do manage to get the job done. Just like that, we catch up and we go past. And we're already 8/10 ahead. Much more pace than these guys around us. Pourchaire, meanwhile, is 3.5 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Just a hair faster. Gasly, Zhou, Ricciardo all just behind, then Norris, Giovinazzi, and doing just 1.8 behind him. We've already recovered back to that P8 and definitely making progress. Giovinazzi and Magnussen each into the pits. They can double stack here, no problem, as spread out as they are. Norris, the only car left in between now, 18 seconds still behind, so Doohan has held. Ooh, crash involving multiple cars.
It was the AlphaTauri driver involved.
AlphaTauris both lock up to the inside and they brush each other.
It's caused
Unless
carnage.
There's and you can see just what a difference. Russell comes out right behind Pourchaire, and Russell pits so early he's going to have to pit a second time and use the softs at the end of this race. And even if he doesn't, Pourchaire has a significant advantage and can overtake him quite easily. Doohan comes back out in 14th. Everybody has pit. Many guys will pit a second time, so Doohan not in an ideal spot by any stretch of the imagination, but he's definitely in a better spot than he was before. Gasly's 6 seconds behind, so Pourchaire with DRS will probably overtake Russell quite easily. We have plenty of spare fuel. We are going to need to try to make some progress with Doohan manually. We know just the place to make overtakes, though the guys in front of us are all in a DRS train, so they're going to have it as well. So even with DRS, it's not a given. It's not easy like it was before. Pourchaire on his own. Can he get the overtake done?
Okay, there's a
Yellow, sector 1. It's behind us. It's Aston Martin. And they've already resumed racing.
There's been a crash.
Stroll with crash. Doing. Do we have enough of a pace advantage? No, even with all that push.
Happy to increase pace.
Can we challenge here? Yes, we do. Get up the inside, and that is Magnussen now behind us, P13. Bottas is the next target. Let's keep pushing. And we get around Bottas up to P12. Next up is Sainz. And we're already up inside of Giovinazzi and around him. And Ocon's going to be an easy one here on the main straight if we don't get him before that. We're already challenging. And we've got the overtake complete. Neutral it is. Now can we drive away from these guys? New fastest lap. That was pretty fast. We just overtook 5 cars in 2 laps, is it? But now without DRS. Can we hold them off and pull away? 5.5 seconds to Perez ahead. Pourchaire has gotten around Russell into the race lead, so it's P1, P9. We're back up into the points for Doohan after his big mistake there, and he's out to 8 tenths over Ocon and pulling away 9 tenths. 1 second, and we've got it. We've got him out of DRS before we hit the let's go standard. Oh, come on. Oh, Doohan. Oh, Doohan. Oh, Doohan. Fourth mistake of the day. Fourth mistake after such a beautiful recovery. Slams into the wall. He is back out in P17. He's at least on mediums to the end. But he's having a bad day, and he's definitely not gaining at the rate he was before. He's slower now with that damage. Now there are cars that are going to pit a second time themselves. Pourchaire has gotten Russell out of DRS range. Challenging Bottas. Out of battery, but we get around Bottas. We're up to P13, and we get around Ocon.
And a new position. Just
can we drive away from those guys? Yes, we can. Standard.
I think there's been a lockup.
Ricciardo with the lockup. Multiple cars have crashed. I don't want the field bunched up. Pourchaire's 9.5 seconds ahead. I'd like to secure his win and see if Doohan just can do something to get back out there. Here is the crash. Oh, this was just behind us. Was it not? Or at least where we were a while ago anyway.
There's the crash. Mark my words.
Bottas crashes into Ocon. So Doohan is back up to P12, by the way. 4.5 seconds behind Magnussen once again. Verstappen has recovered to P9. Russell is only P7 with that extra pit stop. And I think everybody's done with those extra pit stops now. Doohan now 43 seconds behind his teammate, but he is 10 seconds ahead of everybody else, so that's good. That's very good. Doohan already down to 66% though. Can't afford to be pushing too much in those late laps. It's going to hurt. If we can catch up to Magnussen, we can get P11 easily enough, but I don't know about getting back up into the points. Verstappen is leading that group at P8. We're definitely not going to get higher than that. We're at 1.3 already. We're coming pretty quickly, but Magnussen's losing time rapidly, so I think 11, and there is that 8, 9, 10 group ahead of us. You can see a huge gap to Russell in P7. Pourchaire has lapped Bottas. We're lapping cars, folks. 10 laps to go. Doohan now 2 seconds. Ah! Pourchaire runs wide. Pourchaire runs wide. Wouldn't that be something? Last place car takes out lead driver after lead driver runs wide and rejoins the track unsafely. Would be quite the headline. 4.5 seconds. Anyway, doing. Porsche is 16 seconds ahead of Gasly. We should be in a 1-2. Remember, Porsche was the one who took the penalty. Doing is just taken to making lots of mistakes. Doing back in the points. Again. He lapped Bottas and Stroll and Latifi and Tsunoda now. So 4 cars have been lapped in this race. Meanwhile, Doohan getting challenged by Sainz. Quite off pace at this point for Doohan.
Checkered flag.
Porsche has won. Porsche has won. Now we ride with Doohan. Can he hold off the challenge of Sainz to keep that 1 point? Only a few corners to go, and we open up a 6/10 advantage. Looks like we got it. His only consolation, getting the fastest lap and getting into the points for the day. Otherwise, absolute day to forget for Doohan, but a day to remember for Porsche with a 20-second victory over Ricciardo, and Red Bull only getting a 5.9, Ferrari only getting a 6.8, McLaren not getting in the points at all. Good times, good times. Alpine, definite up-and-comer, still focusing on this year's car, getting stronger and stronger. Ocon spins on the final lap, but he will finish in P16. He was the last car on the lead lap anyway. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.